make a DIY bicolor. 3 components are used in this build. A 3.5mm mono plug available from eBay, very cheap if you don't mind shipping from China. Bicolor LEDs from DigiKey, link in the description below, and a 1 kiloohm 1/8 watt resistor. Step 1. Unscrew the plastic shroud from the plug and cut off the strain relief. Cut off the crimp tab of the plug. They won't be needed and get in the way. Then cut the leads on the LED just past the flat spots. Put some solder on the ground tab. Solder the LED so that the top of the flat spot on the LED's leg is even with the end of the ground tab. Take a 1 kiloohm resistor and bend the lead 90 degrees and cut it short. Place the lead on the hole in the signal tab and solder. Cut the remaining lead to length and bend it so that it touches the leg on the LED. Solder. It should look like this. Screw the shroud back on. We can check our work using the diode setting on a multimeter. With the multimeter on, touch the probes to the ground and signal on the plug. The LED should come on. Now swap the probes and the other LED should come on. Now let's have some fun. This has been another reckless experiment. Today we are going to do a proper demo of the YM3812V3. Built for the 2 operators are available to the user by the potentiometer. The patch points that are used with the switches .3812. For CV and gate control, a Division 6 business card sequencer is used. Here are the initial settings. Let's play a sequence and see how it sounds. We can do better than this. Let's start by changing FM modulation to AM. Frequency multiplier can have interesting effects. Will also color the sound. Changing the waveform will do.
Excellent. So, here we are. Good morning, everyone. Is Are you there? Perfect. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. And yes. Oh, look at there. Claudia, are you using green screen? Yes, I'm using it. Of course I do. I mean, if I if I have to make a live stream, it has to be awesome. It has to be the best that I can. It's not super perfect. I have to tweak a little bit my settings, and uh, I don't like the frame. Let's see if I can. I don't like the frame that you see here. I have to tweak a little bit my green screen skills. Is exactly. but uh, but I'm using a green screen, of course, to look like a professional video gamer, streamer, and stuff like that. Also, same thing for headphones. I have them just because I look cooler, but I'm not listening to anything. I just need them to hold the microphone. That sounds better. Next lesson will be a video game. Unfortunately, I don't play Fortnite. I tried, but it sucks. And video games, no, no, video games, no, come on, video games. Anyway, so first of all, uh, I would like to know if you have questions about previous lessons, if you have doubts, things that you want me to cover. Uh, I mean, just as we usually start lessons, like when I say, do you have problems, questions, issues? Let me know. And when I read down here, is that because down here there is the chat going on? Nothing, no problems, no issues, zero. Perfect. Okay, let me check. Uh, in the meantime, let me let me tell you that as you may see now from this week, all teachers have a personal channel that makes easier to understand which class you have to follow, where videos are, and so on and so on. Not only I have what I want to do is that is because you can find me like in school. You can find me during the week making me questions, reviewing things, and so on and so on. What I've decided is that I will keep my videos in this channel not just for 24 hours. I will leave them till they are needed. I mean, so you will find them into the channel. And why this? Because whenever you need to review a step, whenever you need to check something, or if you simply want to watch again same video that you have seen that you were watching live, but maybe you want to slow it down so that you can see better steps that I have made to use a certain tool. You can do it as many times that you want. I have already started putting again on the channel videos that I've started recording last week, and I think I should have also very first week of live streaming videos. Okay, so not immediately, but I think during the weekend I will upload all videos that I have recorded, that I have also broadcasted live. And in this way, in this channel, you can find basically all of my classes. And I think this would be pretty useful in general, so that you can see also previous lessons, even the one with stairs. I think I have also the lesson where I have explained the roof. Okay, and you will find videos here. Not now, not immediately. Yesterday I was able to find some of my 3ds Max classes already, and they are there. But 99% during the weekend you will find all of them. Perfect. So let's see. Let's see what we have to do today. That is, as I said, unless you have questions, what I want to show you today is how to use a particular tool that is that is called component. And I will show you how to use it, what it does, and so on and so on. And if we have time, I will show you a little bit of rendering. Yesterday, I should have done same kind of class, but students asked a lot of things, so I wasn't able to do this kind of little introduction in rendering. But today we will see if I will be able to do it. Most important part of today's class, by the way, is how to use component tool. And let's write. So, oops, forgot to start the pen application. Epic pen, exactly, so that I can write notes on the screen. Let's see if it works. Okay, so today we have to see mainly the tool that is called component, and this is our first task. And second, we will have an introduction in very basic rendering operations. Why I want to show you rendering together with component? Simply because I will show you that when we use this tool that is called component, this will be used mainly for two extremely important operations that are adding furniture to our projects. But we will see also that inside same exact tool, just by scrolling a few options here and there, we will find also that this is the tool that we have to use in order to put lights in inside our project. So the only way then that I have to show you how lights work in Revit is by just showing you, just a very, very basic introduction into rendering inside Revit. So, with this being said, let's start our new project, so an empty one. And um, what I will do is I will simply start by creating some very, very basic uh, wall here and there, simply because I want to show you also how components will react when we have a project that has already been created. So before doing anything, I just make a random looking house. I just put angled walls on purpose, and you will see why in a second. And I press escape. So first thing first is I create a project. I mean, just a room, nothing complex, nothing fancy, but just a place to start putting our component. So where is the button, the tool that is called component? Where we have to go is basically here. We have to go to architecture tab, and component is this big button here, the one with this weird looking symbol. So just to see it, maybe I will make it pink. Exactly. This is the tool that we need to study today. And not only today, not next week, because then I will tell you something at the end of the class, but the week after, I will show you also that if you can't find right component, and today I will also show you where you can also download additional components, but I will show you that in Revit, believe it or not, you can also model objects by yourself, but not today. But today we will focus our explanation here to this particular tool. And what we have to do? We have to click component in order to use it. And inside component, it becomes extremely important to understand that very basic concept, that is, we have to load a family. So we can see simply that when we start using component, if we look here, there is inside our properties of our component, we can see that if we open this menu, we can choose between some preloaded components that, let me tell you, are more or less pretty unuseful right now, because we can add a parking space or just a random desk. So component is not only about this preloaded elements, because what we can do, and also what main reason why we have the library in Revit, is that because the library contains a lot of components. And to use them, what we have to do is basically this. Once that we have clicked component, we click this big button that is called load family. And because since last week I know that you have all correctly set the file location as I have already explained last week, and now we have all our Revit that are immediately browsing the library. What we have to do here is that we need to load that component that we really need to use it. And we will focus our component use, and we will mainly use only components that are in these three folders that are called furniture, furniture system, and lighting. Okay? I mean, and I don't have to explain what is inside furniture, because inside the furniture folder there will be furniture. That's too easy. Inside furniture system, there are instead components to create modular furniture. Inside lighting, there will be light fixtures. We will start by using furniture. And let's say, I don't know, let's use a bed. Why not? So I scroll these files. Since I find the one that I like, let's say this one, and I will click open in order to load this particular bed inside my project. So I click open. When I do this simple step, I will see now that this new loaded bed appears inside my properties. And now I can also place it inside my room, inside that simple building that I am about to create. And what is interesting about component is that you can place a component by simply left clicking, and you start placing it. You place it somewhere, and then you can start by aligning, moving it, and so on and so on. But an interesting aspect of using component is that if you want, before left clicking in order to place your component, what you can do is, if you, and pay attention to this step, if you are far from any pre-created element, so if I am here or here, so I'm not close to any pre-made element, what I can do is, while I have not yet left clicked, I can press the space bar, and each time that I press space bar when I am far from any other object, my component is rotated 90 degrees. And I can do this as many times that I need just before left click in order to place the component. But see this phenomenal behavior of components when you go close to an object. So let's say this. If I move my mouse while I'm placing component, but I move my mouse over a previously created edge, so I'm not clicking anything, I'm just moving my mouse, and you can see that the component snaps to existing edges. But not only, if I place my mouse in here, and you can see that Now this 45 degrees angled edge becomes blue. What happens is that if I press space bar now, instead of rotating my object just 90 degrees according to X and Y, my rotations are first spacebar aligns the component to the edge that I have selected. And starting from there, each time that I press spacebar, the component is rotated plus 90 degrees, but starting from that angle. So I can quickly place my component like this. Poof, without making complex operations like placing the component like you do in AutoCAD, basically when you have to place a block. That is, you make the block, you copy and paste it into the AutoCAD, and then you have to move it, then you have to rotate it, and so on and so on. In Revit, this is a step that is a lot easier. So whenever you just highlight an existing edge, if you press spacebar, boom, first time you press spacebar, boom, immediately you align the object to the edge. And if you keep pressing spacebar, then you rotate your object plus 90 degrees, but from that new angle. So I can place it here like that. Look, I can place it like this. And this is an operation that happens seamlessly when I just click component and I move my mouse. Look, I move my mouse here, so I light this horizontal spacebar. Boom. And now I press escape because in this house there are enough beds to choose where I can go to sleep. Okay? So this is first interesting aspect that we need to know about components. That is the simple fact that we can align them when we place them. And also what is important is that we can just load components according to the one that we want to use. But I want to show you a few more things that are important when we create component. And let me delete a few of these objects. I want to show you that even if what we have placed in our project looks like just a 2D block, this is not true because in Revit, remember, whatever object we create looks like a 2D element just because we are using a floor plan view that is a top orthographic view. But for example, if I now click up here and I open my 3D view, I can see that my block in reality, look, my block is not a 2D thing. It is a three-dimensional object. It has, let's see if I can delete this wall so that we can see it better, even from the side. But look, it has the mattress, it has the structure, it has this slightly uncomfortable pillows, it has these legs, and so on and so on. Okay? But there is even more. There is this. Can you see that right now my viewport is displayed in black and white and in a visual style that is called hidden lines. When I place components, I need to know that uh, basically, I will say all components that we can find in our library, as well as components that we can download. And I will show you where you can download components in a bit. But they are not only coming with their shapes and their 3D solids. They also have materials and textures already applied. So, wait a second, let me read questions. It is also possible to convert an inventor model to a Revit family. But these are two questions, because in these questions there are two elements that are: it is possible to convert an inventor model to a Revit family. The answer is yes. It is possible to do it by keeping all parameters. This is 90% no. Uh, the language that both softwares use is the same, but they basically use a slightly different um, tools. So it is possible to correctly bring models from Inventor to Revit, and they will look perfect. But parametric aspect, I would say no. I would say no. They will look like just imported 3D models, so with their shapes, with their vertices, edges, and so on and so on, but probably not with parameters. Okay? So let me show you what I was saying before. That is this. Uh, I was saying that 3D models that we use as components, they have materials, but how can we see them? What you can check is this. If you see in your 3D viewport, you can click down here, and inside this square you can find a button that is called Visual Styles. And if you click there, what I can click is, instead of using hidden line, I will use the option that is called realistic. And basically, by doing this, I set my three-dimensional viewport more or less like I can set my 3ds Max viewport. So basically, by choosing realistic, I simply enable in my viewport the preview of all assigned materials. And I can see, for example, that my walls, that are called generic walls, they have not even a material, but I can correctly see instead the texture in my bed. So it has the texture on the structure, it has the texture like the fabric in the mattress, in pillows, and so on and so on. And what is interesting is that if you are trying to ask me and don't try to do it, that is, Marco, can we change materials? Because the answer will be yes, of course, but not today, because materials require an entire lesson just for materials. So we will see that, of course, we can change whatever we need in Revit, but just step by step, and not today. There is another thing that I need to tell you about components. That is this. So we can go back to our level 1. And so they are not only already into the library, they are not only 3D blocks, they are not only coming with materials, but if we use components that we load from that folder that is called lighting, components inside that specific folder have the shape of light fixture. So we can find like chandeliers, we can find floor lamps, wall lamps, spotlights, and whatsoever. Uh, but all those objects have also light source built in their component. So look, when I click component and then I want to load another one because I don't need to add other beds in this project, I click component, I click load family, and this time I will go up to my library till I find the folder that is called lighting. In here, you have just to pay attention for a second, because in here you find two folders, two subfolders to be precise, and the one that we must use, pay attention, is the one that is called architectural lighting. The one that is called MEP instead is for systems, in order to build electrical or mechanical kind of projects. And we are not interested in doing those kind of projects. So we need to look for our lamps that are both 3D model and the light itself. We have to look for these objects inside that specific folder that is called architectural. And then we find lamps divided by their functions. So they can be external, I will use internal, and now the thing becomes a little complex, because when we have placed the bed, we have seen that I was able to place the bed just after creating my walls, and I was able to create the bed even if there is no floor created. This is true for all components that you place into the floor. So if I want to put a table, if I want to put, as I will do now, if I want to put a floor lamp, I can just start placing it without doing any particular complex step before. But when you read inside lighting folder, when you read the name of your lights, you can find that sometimes they have names that are specifically telling you where these lights can be attached. what it means. If I read here, look, let me find here, exactly. I can see that all these lamps are called floor lamps. So what it means is that all of these lamps can be placed just immediately. They don't require an actual floor structure to be created. But when I see, for example, elements called like this, where I see that word that says ceiling light, or when I find something called pendant light, these kind of objects cannot be immediately placed inside my structure, inside my project, sorry, because this will require a ceiling to be created before so that the light is attached to the real object that is called ceiling. A pendant light, the same. They can be attached to a ceiling, or at least I have to create a floor and they can be attached underneath an existing floor like this. No? Imagine that this is a pendant light. But if I don't create the floor before, I won't be able to use these lights. Or if I don't create a ceiling before, I won't be able to use ceiling lights as well. And this kind of concept in Revit is a concept that is called host. And what it means is this. Let's say, I will show you this probably later, but let's say I want to hang a mirror on the wall. So I select this mirror from the library. Let's say it has here the thing to be hanged. What it means, the host. The host means that this object requires a wall to be hanged. So I need first create the host before I can't place the component. And when you have these objects, you will see that if you try to use them, let's say, look, let's say by mistake I click a ceiling light. If I try to use them, you will see this kind of forbidden symbol. So you will see this symbol appearing. That means that object cannot be created there. It is basically the same concept that we've seen when we have created doors and windows. Doors and windows are also perfect examples of elements that require host, because so that the wall is the host of the door. So let me for a second read the question. Talking about ceilings, could you maybe show how to make a ceiling again? I could create a ceiling. Wait. I could create a ceiling that is attached to the outside walls, but inside walls aren't cut. Shit. they should be. This is a cryptic question. So, first of all, let me finish a little bit lights. If not, we lose that because it is also into the chat. So, but first of all, let me finish a little bit of lights, because if not, we jump here and there, and then we will lose the track. But I will answer in a few minutes. So let me finish first lights. That takes really a second. Because, look, I have seen that I can't create right now any ceiling light because there is no ceiling. So I will create maybe a floor lamp. This one. I mean, not for any reason, but I just like it. I click OK, and I will start putting this lamp. Same same thing happens when I use light. So if I press spacebar, this is still a component. So I can just press spacebar, rotate it 90 degrees. Same thing happens if I move my mouse on an existing angled edge. So the object is rotated according to that particular edge. Okay. Like these. Then I move here. Very nice. Let's say this person that lives here is obsessed by these lamps. Okay, I'll put a couple of more here. And let's see what we have created. Because if I go to the 3D, I will see all these weird lights that are all illuminating the wall, probably. Can you see? Press escape. And this is what I have created in my project. I have all these objects that are basically looking like light fixtures. Okay? But as I said before, these are not only light in terms of 3D models. They have also light source inside. And how can I know this? To make this visible, but just to show you a very, very basic thing in Revit, what we are going to do is we will create a floor just to avoid all these things flying. And I will show you a very small introduction into the rendering with Revit. So, look, first of all, let's make a floor. And I will move my mouse on a wall. I press Tab. And then, can you see that here, wall is missing, but the shape of my floor must be closed, so I will simply close this manually. Then I click OK. And I have my beautiful, phenomenal floor created. If I go to the 3D view, I can see now that my objects are not looking like they are just floating. So let me show you this fantastic thing to prove you that lights have also light source inside. So what you can do is just this very simple step. That is, you can click View, and when you go to View, you can find this button that is called Render. And when you click Render, you are not actually rendering the 3D view that you are viewing right now. You are instead opening 3D 3D rendering parameters. Okay? Ready for this? Can you find this menu? Let me know into the chat. Perfect. So let's see what we have to do here. Fantastic. So what we have is we have this big button. Thank you so much for your feedback. We have this button that we will click later. But in here we have the quality of the render. So the quality means in general how sharp our rendering will be, how precise textures will look like. Uh, I will keep draft simply because it will be faster. Then what we have here is this. In this part, we have the possibility to choose the resolution. If we keep, oops, the pen flown away. If we keep the option screen, we will basically make a rendering that is perfectly matching this size in pixel of our screen. But if we want to make something bigger or something smaller in terms of resolution, so in terms of pixels, we can choose the option printer, and we can select, according to DPI, we can select how big in pixels our rendering will be. And I will keep like 75 DPI so that my rendering will be very small, but not because it has to be small, just because it will be faster. Nothing more than this. But see this extremely important part. Last and most important aspect of the rendering menu will be here when we see lighting. Basically, we need to know that Revit, when you start your project, Revit already has your sunlight light source. It is already there. You don't have even to create it. And I hope that you remember a little bit of 3ds Max. But in 3ds Max, do you remember that we can use artificial light? Artificial light, or we can use sunlight. But then what we have to do when we use artificial light, we need to change the exposure. And when we use no, Wait a second. This is a little bit. Give me 3 seconds.